Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay now? Great. So welcome to our weekly connection. We're going to study from the portion of Kitisa in the English Zohar, page 125.
St. Louis County continues to lead the state in vaccine.
All right, so let's read the synopsis. Is Ellen here?
I am.
All right, all yours.
Couldn't stay away. Rabbi Yossi tells us that God is the most merciful Father of all, for he has never failed one word of all his good promises. Even though God threatened judgment, the mother Malchut held his arm and averted that judgment. We are told that Moses did the same thing for Israel as she did, and Rabbi Yossi wonders where Malchut was at the time. When approached with this question, Rabbi Shimon says that all the friends who study Torah together must love one another. Otherwise, they cause a blemish in their counterparts above. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are the secret of Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferet. He says that he can reveal a secret he learned from the dean of the yeshiva in the Garden of Eden. That when Yisrael joined in the sins of the heathen nation, they committed a sin against the mother Malchut. Thus, they caused the Shekhinah to be exiled with them and exchanged their glory for the likeness of an ox. Rabbi Shimon tells us the secret of the likeness of the ox and what it means that the ox eats grass. The conclusion to be drawn is that the mother was blemished and was thus absent when Moses stayed the hand of God from judging Israel. Rabbi Shimon says, though that both the one who raises the lash and the one who restrains it are both of the same mind.
רבי יוסי לאו אבא רחמנה על בנוי כדקדוש. כקודשה בריחו וקרא הוא דכתיב לא נפל דבר אחד. מכל דברו הטוב וגומר תחזה רחמנו. דילה אילו אמר לא נפל דבר אחד מכל דברו ולא יתיר נוח לעלמא דלה ידברה, אבל מיד אמר מכל דברו הטוב ואפיק ביש לאחורה, דהה מילה דבי שלה באה למעבד.
Rabbi Yossi said, there is no father more merciful to his children than the Holy One, blessed be he. For it is written, there has not failed one word of all his good promise. Come and behold his mercy. If it had said, there has not failed one word of all of his promise, and no more, this would have included his harsh words also. Then it would be better for the world not to have been created, because it would be impossible to bear it. But since it said, of all of his good promise, and left his harshness, it implies that he left off the harsh words he spoke of Yisrael, and they did not come true. From here, we see his mercy, because he does not want to do an evil thing.
Okay, so I'll get started here with a couple of points. Rabbi Shimon says that all the friends who study Torah together must love one another. Otherwise, they cause a blemish in their counterparts above. So this is almost like an oxymoron, and I hope I'm using the right word. It's almost like common sense, but also would be opposite if it doesn't happen. It's like almost like a necessary to say it. So let me explain. So Rabbi Shimon says that all the friends who study Torah together must love one another. So somebody who is studying Torah is somebody who is not only following the laws and studying spirituality and studying everything that is lined up for an individual to become a so-called spiritual person, would also almost mean that almost as a conclusion, natural progress of things, that this person is also walking the talk. You can't really, if you will, and if you're really taking this spiritual work seriously and spiritual study seriously, when you are studying from the Zohar and the Mishnah and the Torah and the Gemara and all the laws. By the way, a lot of those laws, they are imbued in all the things that we have taught this far in the center in Kabbalah 1, 2, 3, 25. But if you think about it, you study it, you practice it, and you become elevated. I can conclude for myself, not speaking for you, speaking for myself, that since I have began studying, I'm a better individual. God help if I was not introduced to spirituality in Kabbalah, when I was. And that could have been a total parallel universe to what I could have become, who I'm married, and the children that I have, and the work that I do, etc., and the relationship that I have with even today on the screen could have been, God forbid, different. But whatever I've done this far and studied and taught this far led me to where I am. So if you will, compared to where I started and where I am today, it's almost a given that if you follow a spiritual path, and no matter how tainted you are or how imperfect you are, you'll become a better person. It doesn't matter how damaged a person can be from all sorts of things, and I'm measuring my word because it can be worse or it can be better, of course, but not everybody is born under a good star. A person can be born in a very violent and traumatizing family and upbringing, and can call himself or herself unlucky in the way that they grew up, and even their parents or who they married or the work environment. And so you could say that, that however and whatever you're going to choose to study that is considered a spiritual path, no matter how tainted or damaged that person is going to become better. And even if that better, compared to somebody who didn't have that trauma in their upbringing, or who they married and who their children or their parents, etc., they could have been luckier, let's say, and an easier life. If they follow a spiritual path, it's very unique. Like the progress is very unique to every single individual, and we can put like a whole batch in the same bag and then say everybody needs to be this way. Whatever spiritual work you have done, and I know that I know some people that have taken Kabbalah 1 with me, and our progress, even if it's similar, is very just went in different paths. This person did this, and this person did that, and this one is successful, and this one divorced, and this one, all sorts of things. And one went like totally berserk and nuts, and like there are all sorts of, but we started Kabbalah 1, all the same. For most of us, and this is why I'd like to make like a generality, that whoever is exposed to spirituality, it doesn't matter how and where you began in your point A, at the starting point. If you're looking at wherever you are today, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later on, you're in a better place. You are in a place that is, don't take it to the letter, like, too literal when I say elevated, but yes, for the way that I perceive it is more elevated compared to where you were before you started spirituality, because we're starting to speak a language that is the language of the soul. When we are not discussing the language of the soul, we are talking the language of the body, and we can, recognize the contrast between the two very easily. The speech of the body and the speech of the soul is very distinct. The speech of the soul is all about improving oneself, is all about becoming a better individual, not only for ourselves, but the people around us, is to improve the world, is to elevate the consciousness of oneself and the entire globe. And it's always all about positivity and letting go and forgiving and compassion and tolerance. Love the neighbor as thyself. This is the language of the soul. Whenever we're not talking that language, that's the language of the body. Again, not into making generalities, but when we don't have that soul speech, then that soul speech is not elevating our consciousness, then it does, the other side, which is basically ground us together with the consciousness of the body. And they are opposite. One is about grounding, one is about elevating, one is about ascension, and one is about descending. It can't be both at the same time, and it cannot be standing still, meaning that you cannot take a break from one or the other. You cannot be in the middle. You know what? Today I'm going to take a break from all these things, and I just want to be in the middle. There is no such a thing. It's like I like to give in class this example of the escalator, but the escalator that goes down and you go up. So if you go up at a good pace, then eventually you'll reach the top. But if in the middle you decide, oh, I'm tired, I need to take a breath and just take like 30 seconds break, you'll find yourself at the bottom. So consciousness is the same. Consciousness is going against nature, is going against the five senses, is going against the body consciousness. And if we take a break, we give it away. We give the control away to the body consciousness. So going back to what the Zohar here is talking about, those friends who study together must love each other. It's like must love each other. In my language, I don't know who translated that, but in my language, I don't like the must, because the must is like, where is my freedom? Like even my hat is about freedom. My every spark of my essence is about the freedom, but it's really like the freedom of the soul. I don't want to go against the government, and I don't want to go against the system. And it's not that. It's the freedom of the soul to really become who you're meant to be. And when we are boxed in, then that's when you're not free to become who you're meant to be. So maybe we could change that word must, but really it is the friends who study together, meaning you could take like the same class. They have the ability, they have the capacity to truly love each other. And to truly love means to really care for one another. Now, because we're human beings and we are all a work in progress, we're not where we all wish we could be. We're not like in the level of like prime spirituality where we are not, what's the word? No, it's not disturbed, distracted by life things, life events and friends and family that come to visit and children and all sorts of obligations, etc. You have your life and I have my life, and at the same time I'm a human being and I have all sorts of excuses why I cannot be that elevated spiritual person, that I cannot be that perfection that every single person should expect of us, right? We expect others to become perfect. We expect others to become the perfect friend, to be there for us when we need it. It's not when they can, it's when I need it, right? And so the reverse question is, how can I become that person? How can I become that person that I want others to be for me? Because the easiest to do, and that is the body consciousness reasoning, is I want others to be perfect for me. And when they're not perfect for me, then that is when we are creating this blemish. Why? Because we judge one another for not being perfect. But if we are starting by first choosing to be on a spiritual path, which is already a great undertaking, Why? Because it's a lot of commitment. It's a big commitment to become a spiritual individual. And to become a spiritual individual is not just the study. It's not just the study, it is also the practice. The practice is that when we are being tested, when we are in our comfort zone, and remember all the times that you needed and your friends and family didn't show when you needed it, well, the first questioning would be, wait a second, why is that in my movie? Not in a victim way. That must be such a big revelation, because there must have been so many people that felt in this way, so the universe is just giving me the change. And that change is, I'm so much into myself and expecting other people to be what I want them to be, that the change from the universe is to show me, you see, the way that you feel is how you make other people feel. Now it's not about guilt. We're not about, spreading, teaching guilt. It's about reasoning, thinking, food for thoughts. And this is really what we're talking about, because the Zohar is, I would say, like the perfect wisdom, and perfection is wisdom is not injecting guilt. Perfection in the light is not injecting guilt, it is teaching wisdom. And once you have the wisdom, once you have the knowledge, you can make better decisions. But this is why if I victimize because somebody wasn't there for me, then ask yourself that question. So again, the people or the friends that study Torah could, must, should love one another, which means that they study, but also they practice. So if you practice what you preach, or if you practice what you teach, or if you practice what you study, then care and love is going to be there. This is why I said at the beginning, it's almost an oxymoron, because if you're really practicing what you learn, practicing what you teach, practicing what you share, then it's common sense. You're practicing all the laws of this universe, the spiritual laws of this universe. You are going to experience, you are going to emanate, you're going to receive love and care. Why? Because this is what you are. What you are exactly what you study, and this is what you pass on to others. And so every time that we talk, discuss, study, speak of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, again, those are codes for us. Those are codes for us for what is the foundation of spirituality. And we've spoke about it, not just in classes. Somebody here told me they've taken Kabbalah 118 times, and so they could teach it. And seriously, some of you could teach Kabbalah 1 because you've taken it so much. But at the same time, all this is imbued in the study. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are codes for the foundation of our spiritual work. So I'm not going to go over it. I think I even mentioned some of it in the last 2 sessions. And so, and then in the next verse, there is no father more merciful to his children than the Holy One, blessed be he. So again, there are a lot of contradictions. Because it seems that the universe, that the light is not so forgiving. And there are repercussions, and there are punishments, and there are all sorts of laws that if you do this, then this is going to happen. And if you do that, that's what's going to happen. I'll just give you one tiny example. And that is, my daughter was playing with a battery, to do music and to play music. And it's a real one. So it's not fit for small children. And so I told her 2 or 3 times, be careful, be careful, be careful. 2 minutes later, she pinched her finger. Nothing bad, don't worry, but enough to, for a little cry. The lesson from this is not that she's not listening. The lesson from this is for all of us. The universe is giving us all the teachings and all the signs and all the guidance of what to do and what not to do, because if you do this, then great. But if you do that, then there is a risk. And this is why I also think that most of us are pretty good with street signage. Right? Like you drive on the road and you see a stop, and naturally, because you're such a good driver, you don't look right, you don't look left, you don't stop, and you go straight, right? Wrong. Very good. Now, if you're in Latin America, the answer could be, I've been there, and apparently it's like a culture. They just do not respect signage. There is a red light, that's the moment to go. There is a stop, that's the moment to go. But really, for what it is intended is that if there is a stop, you stop. If there is a red light, you stop. If there is a green light, go. And in the United States, I don't know what other countries, I don't even remember, like in Canada, can we turn on the right lane? Like in the States? So there are certain states, like in New York, you're not allowed. There are some other states on the right lane, you're not allowed to turn right. But for some people that are coming from wherever and they can turn right, and then they go to New York and they don't know about it and they turn right, they can get a ticket, right? Just normal. So when you don't respect the law or when you don't respect the signage, you can get a ticket. There are some states where you can cross the street not in the way where you're supposed to. I don't remember the word, how it's called. And everything is fine. You just look right, you look left, and you cross, everything is fine. There are some states you're not allowed. If you cross in the middle where there is no, I'm talking about like, people that walk and they cross, they can get a ticket. $50, $60, they can get a ticket. It's interesting, right? Like, things like that. So, but I'm not talking necessarily about the laws. We can also have a conversation about that, but I'm not necessarily talking about the laws of the things that you don't know. I'm talking about the things that you know that you shouldn't, but you still do them. Why? Because nobody's looking. Usually it's like that. Nobody's looking, and it doesn't seem to have a camera, does it? And it's always there. It's where you expected the least that they come and they surprise you. Hey, I'm here. And they come with their, whatever, and they give you a ticket, and you know why he was stopped, right? And majority of the times, yes, I know, speeding or red light. A lot of people don't stop at the red light. Why? Because it's clear, like it just seems, and they're going to wait exactly at the spot where there is no traffic, and you have no reason to stop. They just have like this strategic, especially by the end of the month when they need to round up their results, they're going to wait in those strategic stops to give tickets. They also have goals. Did you know that cops have goals? It's probably, it's like just any other business. And so all this to say that if we follow the rules, then you're fine. Your path is just going to be flawless. And if you don't follow the rules, there might be some hiccups. Those are not promised, but there is a higher risk for hiccups, for danger, for challenges, for payments. And sometimes we like the risk, and sometimes we are in a rush, and sometimes we have good excuses. Remains the fact that you still got a ticket. You can have the best excuse. If it's not a real justified emergency, like there is a pregnant woman in the back, there is rarely a good excuse. So the person gets a ticket. And you can be as upset and as you took the risk. Why do you take the risk? So the laws of this universe, they aren't different. And what I'm trying to pull from that takeaway is God does not punish. It is our decisions. our life decisions determine if our path is going to be flawless and even more flawless than it ever was, or a path with turbulence, a path with challenges, a path with encounters that we are not so proud of. And it's all down to our choices. Now, those choices we can say, but you know, there are some exceptions, because if a person was born in that state, or if a person was born in that place, or if a person was born like this or like that, to these parents, to that geographical area where there is so much crime and where there is this upbringing, we know as students of spirituality. I don't want to call myself a spiritual person. I'm a student of spirituality. As students of spirituality, we know cause and effect. And it's not just to know, it's to have the belief and to have the faith when it's important to hold on to it. Why? Because, you know, now we are hopefully all in agreement that there is no such a thing as accidents. Things don't happen by, you know, coincidence, and you know, there is a path and there is cause and effect, and if things happen, it's for a reason. It's to learn things, and even if it's not going our way, we need to always be positive and optimistic, etc. But when it's not going our way and it's really upsetting, this is our real test. This is one of our greatest tests to really challenge, are we a spiritual student or not? Now, we also don't want to be too harsh on ourselves, because it says here, there is no father more merciful to his children than the Holy One, blessed be he. So, in other words, we are students of spirituality, and it's not just, you know, for a crash course. This is a lifetime thing. And so there are times that I'm going to score positive, and there are times, probably majority of the times, that I'm going to fail, that I'm going to fall, and I'm not going to succeed in those specific tests. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because overall, even if there was all those ups and downs and there was mostly down, overall, since you started spirituality, you're pretty much up. So every single time that you go down, it feels like you went like 3 or 10 steps back. You didn't. You did go back. We did fall. We did fail. We did take 2 or 3 steps back, but overall, we're doing so much better. And beyond that aspect and beyond this reasoning is that there is the essence of creation, the essence of everything that is called God, or however you name it, that loves us more than anything. And he will be the most merciful, forgiving, patient than we and all humanity combined will ever be towards another individual. Because if there is an individual that has done great by me, but then did wrong, which could be like a lot, but overall it was positive. But still, it doesn't matter, because the hurt, the fall, the disappointment overshadows. And it's a big lesson for us, because if we are to behave like the Creator, that is more merciful to others, more than anything and more than anybody, that we would start applying this towards others that are not scoring those positive points with us when they have in the past. Again, let's also not exaggerate. If the person is like really rude and mean and toxic, then, you know, stay away. But if that person was there in the past and is going through a tough time and he's obnoxious and he's short and he's disrespectful or whatnot, that's his fault. I didn't say fault, falling. He's falling, but the same as we fall. And when we fall, we need people to be there for us. And if we oftentimes, if we don't find people around when we fall, it's because all those times that other people fell, we were not there. We disappeared. Why? Because I don't like their toxicity. I don't like their negativity. But they were not there all the time. They're going through some challenges. That's just another takeaway. Another takeaway for us to understand that people fall because they're human beings. People fall because of the rules of the game, of this physical reality that is imbued with a consciousness of good and bad. So there are things, people, circumstances, company, that you will see the good and you will see the bad, and it will go up and it will go down. And it's like everything, relationships, stock market, it's like everything. With the exception of maybe taxes, they just keep going up, or inflation right now. But other than that, it's all up and down, all. And we get used to it. We get used to it. Why? Because we know that it's part of the game. So if we are more tolerant, we become more tolerant with, first of all, with ourselves. Do we still love ourselves? Hopefully the answer is yes, or we learn to love ourselves, especially in the faults. We love ourselves when we are, and proud, when we are at the top of our game. We need to begin loving the part of us that is falling. And when we start loving that part that is falling the same way that the Creator is loving us and is merciful towards us like anybody, like no one else, that's when we're going to start becoming like the Creator towards others, and we will draw people that are alike. People that are alike, and then we would also complete this idea. Rabbi Shimon says that all the friends who study Torah together must love one another. They don't love one another when everything is good only. A spiritual couple, 2, 3, 10 people that love each other is not only when everything goes well. It's when there are challenges. And by the way, the greatest relationships is when there are challenges and they fight, but they overcome it. And the respect and the love overtakes all the differences. Those are the strongest and the most lasting relationship. My daughter, Mimi, has a challenge with a girl in a class, and like they bicker and they fight or whatever. And I keep telling her she's going to be your best friend. Those relationships that are, cute and nice and hang out and play dates and whatever, and you speak nicely, and those relationships, like if there are no challenges, they're not going to last. It's funny, right? It's almost like, what? Like, why are you saying that? It's not like unspiritual. It's not that. It's just that because there is going to be up and down. It's just the rules of this game. So you love each other when everything is great, and she cares for me, and she tells me nice things, and she shows up, and great. So you love each other. So I'm just waiting. Let's wait for the fall, because there is going to be a fall. It's not to be pessimistic. There is going to be a fall, and when you're going to apply what you've learned in the fall, that's what's going to endure. That's what's going to inject lasting into this relationship, into this project, into this business. You start a project and it's up and it's exciting, and then there are challenges. Challenge 1, challenge 2, challenge 1. There is like a whole batch already of people that have given up. There's some people that are more like, like resilient, and challenge 2, challenge 3, yeah, I'm a fighter. Challenge 10, okay, I'm done. I'm gone. The ones that never give up, they're going to be successful. And there's so many stories of successful people that almost lost everything 100 times. and it's to be resilient. I mean, again, there are some exceptions, like, but I don't want to run into exceptions because they destroy the lesson. So it's not about that. There are much more lessons to learn from these concepts than, the potty pooping examples that are exceptionals. Those are exceptionals. Because the majority, if you're keeping on pushing towards your fears and towards your challenges, etc., that's going to be the most lasting and gratifying and successful thing. And it works in every relationship. Okay. Any question? Very well. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll meet again next Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you.
Thanks, Yehuda.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Yehuda.
Have a good week.
Thank you.
You too.
Merci beaucoup.
De rien. Bye-bye.